In this video, I'm going to talk about and offer you 3 simple tips to help you get over energetic overwhelm. Hi, my name is Nancy Rebecca, and this is my YouTube channel. And if you're new to this channel, know that I am a retired registered nurse, but I've been working as a clairvoyant psychic for almost 30 years now, and my major interest has always and is always about the human energy field and what influences us at those frequency levels, whether it's frequencies on the inside or frequencies on the outside. We are impacted by the energy that's going on within and outside of us. So today I'm going to talk about overwhelm, because we are living in a time of great change, but we're also living in a time of great overwhelm. So I'm going to give you a few tips at the end, if you hang in there, about how you can instantly start to release that overwhelm and be able to get back in the driver's seat of your life. So I have notes. I am not going to be one of those people that's very good at just talking to you and memorizing all this. However, I've talked so much about overwhelm, I should be able to do it, but I am going to refer to my notes. So thank you all so much for joining me. All right. So what do you do for yourself when overwhelm takes over the helm of your day? So what do I mean by that? Well, if you are at the helm of the ship, that means you've got your hands on the steering wheel and you're heading straight ahead and there's no obstacles in sight, and suddenly overwhelm happens. You start worrying, things get physically overwhelmed, emotionally, mentally, and you're being bombarded. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different ways that that might feel for you, depending on what your kind of intuitive style is, can make a really big difference as well. And so you kind of get bumped out of the way, and then suddenly you just can't steer your way through anything. You might be heading straight for that iceberg, and there is nothing you can do to change direction. So we're going to fix that today. So when you are an empath, which an empath means someone who feels a lot. So you, your emotions kind of direct which way to go. Or if you're in a crowd, sometimes it can be quite difficult, can't it, to be able to tell if you are feeling your emotions. Are your emotions getting triggered by the crowd, or are you feeling other people's feelings in the crowd? And so that can be quite overwhelming. But what happens, in that overwhelm? Well, we'll talk about that in the energy field, but let me just make sure that I cover my notes. So often when you are flooded with a lot of emotions at once, you become confused about how you're feeling, and then suddenly you can't pinpoint what that feeling is that's causing you to feel overwhelmed. So you might be feeling anxious or depressed, or you may be suddenly feeling fearful for no reason, or suddenly you're overcome with sadness. And often with overwhelm, it's often jammed with a lot of different feelings at the same time. So your frequencies are being jammed, it's getting really noisy in there, and you don't know which way to turn. Suddenly, negative feelings seem to override your ability to even remember that there are positive things going on in your life. So it's like, I don't know what's wrong. I remember it was right after COVID, and I think people were starting to be able to fly again. I had been gone through cancer treatment for breast cancer. So I'd gone through chemotherapy and radiation, and I was well on my way to my immune system being ready to go again and feeling really good. And so Yvonne and I decided to take a very short little trip, like 4 or 5 days, to Hawaii. And Hawaii had just really opened up the doors to allowing visitors to come again. But we did have to have this long list of paperwork done. But what happened was, I get in the car, transportation to the airport's only like 40 minutes away, but the instant I get in the car, all of a sudden I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, I'm quite psychic and I'm quite intuitive and I can normally sort this out, but I'm not feeling very good and I'm feeling overwhelmed with a lot of feelings and a lot of head noise, and I can't seem to override it to get to my intuition. And that's really what inspired me to really start talking about anxiety and how do we get back to that still point. So here we go. Now I'm on the way to the airport and that overwhelm is getting worse and worse and worse. So now suddenly I'm feeling this impending doom. Have any of you ever felt that, where you just feel like something's wrong, but something's more than wrong? Like something bad is going to happen. Now, by the time we get to the other end now, I don't want to get out of the van. I'm just like, can we just turn around and head back home? Because something doesn't feel right. And so here's the thing, because I've developed my accuracy, I really felt like it was valid, like the plane's going to crash, or something's going to happen at the other end, or maybe I'm going to go on vacation and something's going to happen to my dogs or my family, and we're going to have to come back. So by the time we got to the airport, I didn't even want to get out of the van. I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. I was feeling this light impending doom at this point because I feel confident in my intuitive and psychic ability. I really sensed that something had the potential to happen. So, of course, the extreme would be the plane was going to crash on the way to Hawaii, or maybe something would happen to our dogs while we're gone, or maybe something would happen to a family member and I had to come back. So I'm quickly trying to tap into my intuition to get a sense about why was I feeling like this? And then I'm looking around me and it's like, is anybody else feeling like this? So Yvonne convinces me to go ahead and go into the airport and just let the driver leave. So now I'm in line and I'm very overwhelmed. I've got my mask on. There's a long line of people. I haven't been out of my house in a couple of years. And I remember the person at the desk is asking rapid questions like, do you have ID? Where are you going? Where are you stopping on the other end? Do you have your bags? And I'm like, can you just wait a minute? Because I had that I was completely overstimulated and overwhelmed. So we get checked in, we get our bags through. Now suddenly I've got to go through security. I'm in the middle of crowds. Now I get through security. I don't even know how, but now on the other side, I froze. I completely froze. I was standing in the middle of the big pathway that heads to the gates. And literally, I couldn't even shuffle my feet. I went into overwhelm and I went into shutdown. So what happened was I asked Yvonne, are you feeling this impending doom? Are you feeling overwhelmed? She was like, no, not at all. But it was different for her because I'd been going through cancer treatment. She's the one running to the store. She's the one running to get my medication. She's the one that's out in the world. I hadn't been out in the world. But now my feet are frozen. I can't move. I said, are you sure that plane is not going to crash? Because I can't rely on my intuition right now because I can't access it. So this is the thing about overwhelm. You can't access any of that kind of logical problem-solving ability that you have. So what I did was if I just looked down at the ground and I could follow her feet, I would walk and I would breathe. And then once we got there, I sat and I grounded and I got on the plane. I did okay. I was feeling okay on the plane. When I got to Hawaii, of course it's beautiful and of course it's very healing, but I couldn't really come out of the condo almost the 5 days that we were there, little bits at a time, and then I would feel much more comfortable inside. So in the energy field, I've worked as a nurse with a lot of people who get extremely overwhelmed. So When you're highly emotional and you're an empath, you're going to be overwhelmed with other people's emotions. I tend to be more of a seer because I'm clairvoyant. I tend to be more of a knower, and I tend to get information that way. So what can happen is suddenly I can hear everybody's thoughts. I can hear how active their mind is. So if their mind's super active, like in an airport, really jams my frequencies. Normally that doesn't happen. Like normally I'm able to sustain that. So what ends up happening is, I made it back home again and I went to my doctor because I wanted to see if the medication was causing it. But here's what happened to me energetically. What can happen to everybody energetically is your auric field. So your auric field is this kind of egg-shaped aura that goes around your body. It goes 2 feet under your feet, 2 feet above your head. This is an average, healthy. I am energetically managing my life. I'm at the still point. I'm calm. If you put your hands out, like right now to the side, you wiggle your fingers. That's about where the edge of each of your aura is on each side, front and back. What happens when you're overwhelmed is your auric field gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And did you know that your auric field can become so large it can encompass the entire state that you live in? It can encompass the entire country that you live in. And this is the thing. Anything within your aura is in your kind of your reality. It feels real to you. So if you're the only one in that beautiful aura of yours, you feel real to you. You know it's your feeling, you know it's your thought, you know it's your intuition. But let's say I'm at the airport, right? And there's tens of thousands of people and my aura is spread out. Everything in my aura feels real to me. I can feel the energy field of tens of thousands of people rushing around trying to get to their flights. It was very overwhelming and I couldn't seem to get my aura to come in. So that's what happens when you feel overwhelmed. So when I talk about grounding, grounding A is step number 1. That's the very first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pretend that you're like a tree and you've got these ancient deep roots that connect all the way to the center of the earth. What that does, it also functions as a drain. So I always give the example to my students. If the street drains. So if it rains a lot and you've got the drains in the street and it takes the excess water and carries it out to, the rivers, the lakes, the oceans. But what happens when that drain is so full of fall leaves, like there's just been a big windstorm and all the leaves fill up and block that street drain, the streets can overfill with water, become overwhelmed with water. So it's just exactly like that. You've got to clear the drain, which in this situation would be your grounding. So you're going to want to ground all the way down to the center of the earth at the magnetic core. You're going to want to wrap your root system around that grounding, and then you're going to allow it to pull and drain your aura so your aura can start to relax and come closer to your body. Otherwise, you've got that fight, flight, or freeze that gets activated and makes it hard for you to deflate, right? It's different than feeling deflated. Your overwhelm is deflating so that you can feel calm again. So you want to clear those leaves out. You want to clear that congestion out of your grounding. Both situations show up in the energy field the same way. So whether you're feeling emotional overwhelm or mentally, what I call overstimulated, they both look the same way in the energy field. So step number 2, you want to imagine that the earth energy. So you can imagine it's like warm mud coming up, or you can imagine warm seawater, or it can be different plants, or it can be an animal energy, whatever is that kind of earthy, minerals, supportive energy. You want to imagine that coming up through your legs and into your body, and let it just start to calm your body down. Earth energy is such a nourishing, supportive energy. Anybody can do this. You can pretend that that earth energy is just coming up to support you. And yes, you're doing this when you are feeling complete overwhelm. You're not doing this when you don't feel overwhelmed anymore. You don't wait till you get calm to do this. You do these steps to get calm. So step number 1 is you're going to ground. Step number 2, you're going to bring up earth energy. And then step number 3, you're going to tune in and you're going to ask your spirit, or you could just pretend like you're like, what color should I let rinse through my aura that's going to dissolve the energies that are overwhelming me? So we've got a lot of beautiful colors here with all the different flowers. You can use, blue, red, emerald green is one of my favorites lately. Teal is a beautiful color to clear other people's overwhelm out of your aura. Have you ever been around someone who's totally overwhelmed and you can barely ground? That's exactly what you want to do when someone else is feeling overwhelmed and they're like, I'm anxious, I'm anxious, I'm anxious. You want to sit down and then you want to create roots. You're going to start to ground. You're going to bring up earth energy. You're going to let some cosmic energy flow through your field while you're sitting with your child or your friend or your spouse, your mom or your dad, whoever is that person that sits with you when you're having an anxiety overwhelm attack. And if you're sitting with them, you keep your energy well grounded, and they will eventually match your grounding. They will match your calmness. But it can be a challenge when someone else is anxious, because you can feel how expanded their aura is. So how does overwhelm feel to the body? If you're not sure that you've ever felt overwhelm, what it can feel when the aura gets expanded, first of all, it can feel challenging to breathe. You can start to hyperventilate because there's this pressure in the aura. The aura's filling up and you're feeling all this pressure, almost like diving deeply in the water. You can feel the pressure of the water. Hard to breathe. Your heart might palpitate and race. You might feel nauseated because your solar plexus is starting to kind of shut down. That's where that gut instinct is below the diaphragm. It can start to close down. Your root chakra, survival chakra between the hips, it might start to open too wide. So there's a lot that happens in the body that can trigger your body to say, what the heck? We need to run for our life. Or in my situation, we need to freeze so nobody sees me, right? I need to freeze. I need to hide like a bunny rabbit. So all of that it's really real. It's not just in your head. You're not faking it. You are really feeling that overwhelm. So again, your aura is like a balloon. And again, in extreme situations, it can be really large. So remember, the more your aura is out there, the more anything in your aura feels very, very, very real to you. So when people say you don't have a reason to panic, everything's fine, it just doesn't matter. You are overwhelmed. So you want to ground to the center of the earth, step number 1. You want to bring up earth energy, step number 2. You want to bring through a color of cosmic energy to rinse through your aura. That's step number 3. And if you're feeling a little extra talented, then you can just close your eyes and you just take in nice deep breaths. And as you let it out, you pull your aura in as much as you can. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes the overwhelm just needs a little bit more time to empty your auric field. Move to a place where you do not feel other people's emotions. So for me, once I got to Hawaii and we got in our car, we got into our condo, that I was able to get out of the crowds. I was able to not feel other people's emotions. I was able to get to a place where I could calm myself. And then I would go to the beach for a while. There'd be a lot of people on the beach, but I'd be there for a short period of time. I'd start to feel that little bit of overwhelm, and then I would come back to the condo so I got myself out of it. Even though I know what to do, I still needed to get myself out of it to get myself grounded again. And if you get overstimulated like I do, I'm not as much of a feeler. Again, you want to get out of those crowds where you're not hearing the busyness of their mind or that loud chatter, because when you get overwhelmed, it gets louder, doesn't it? Everything is stimulated on so many levels. So that's why we feel overwhelmed. It does actually show up in the energy field. Yep, you can be in the privacy of your own home. If your aura is out 200 feet, now where I live, I've got apartment buildings all around my house. If my aura is out 200 feet, everybody in those apartments, I'm going to be picking up how they are feeling. So you can be in the privacy of your own home and still feel overwhelmed. So I'm going to ask you to post in the comment section, have you ever found yourself overwhelmed? What kind of tricks and tips do you have so that you can share and maybe help somebody else to know what can they do when they feel overwhelmed and can't move out of their tracks? So anyway, thank you all so much for playing along and learning more about overwhelm and helping to teach others about overwhelm, because we are living during this great time of change. That's not going to go away for a while until our bodies get faster at adapting. But until then, we are stronger together than we ever have been apart. So let's just keep sharing our knowledge with each other so we can move into this new way of being together. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.